Going on, guys? We are going to be live here, if not already, in the next just couple seconds. I have a very good buddy of mine, Mr. Keno Perez, with Signature Real Estate, that's going to be joining us, hopping in the call and talking a little bit about his journey on a couple different paths. So first, I want to kind of chat with him a little bit about what his journey as a new licensed realtor here in 2023 has been like, what he's seen, all of that fun stuff. And then, of course, his journey as a homeowner, right? So Keno, again, is a very close friend of mine, part of my close group of personal friends. And we are, our family helped him and his wife purchase their first home in actually 2018. So it's been a long time. Been quite a while since they purchased the home. So couple really good topics to talk about. I think there's going to be a lot of value in the content today with Keno. So let's bring him in here. I have him chilling in the waiting room, so let's bring him in. Mr. Perez, welcome.
Mario, what's up, man? How you doing?
What's up, dude?
Not a whole
All right,
lot.
hold on.
Man.
Let me.
Oh,
go ahead.
Festive. Get festive.
Bro, it's that time of year. Hold on a second. Boom.
There we go.
Repping it, dude. Sheesh. All right, cool. I was actually just setting up the little. You like that, dude?
That's what awesome stream look like there. I like it.
Yeah, man. This is my next couple weeks. I'm going to be stuck on this look for sure. So I updated the title, the subject title for today's live stream, like right before I brought you in here, right? So I put in the subject title, right, just to give you a preface of kind of how I'm thinking, where we bring the most value to, those that are going to, watch today's stream and just, piece through some of the clips that we put together. But I have basically, here you as both a new agent in, just new agent in general, but especially here in Las Vegas and Henderson market as of 2023, which again, congratulations. What a fun time to make that dive, brother. I'm sure you have lots to talk about in that regard. And then, of course, maybe talking a little bit about how remind me when we purchased your house. Was it December of 2018? Fall of 2018?
I believe we closed December 19th of 2018.
Dude, it's crazy how that time has flown by, dude. Almost 5 years, dude. So we'll talk more about it. Does it feel like 5 years? What have things looked like in the last 5 years? What have we done for your personal immediate mortgage in the last 5 years to, continue to improve and for, the whole 9 yards. But I think there's a lot of fun stuff that we could talk about. But first, tell me a little bit about you, dude. So introduce yourself kind of to the masses, to the audience here, to those that are going to, take a look at these clips, but who you are, what you do, how long you've been here.
Awesome, yeah. So my name is Joaquin Perez, but everyone I know calls me Keno. I've been going by that for most of my life. I'm born and raised here in Vegas, so Keno kind of fit as a nickname. I was a bartender on and off the Strip. I opened up the Cosmopolitan, did the hospitality life, did the industry life, and shortly after COVID and all of that went down, I decided to kind of make a transition, utilizing a lot of the skills that I learned from just talking with people, being in front of people, listening to what people need, and kind of taking that to the next level. And my dad had been a solid influence on me. He'd always been interested in real estate, both investing and purchasing on his own. He had the idea that, hey, God's never making any more land, and the best thing that you can ever have to really create that generational wealth are some of these real assets like real estate. So finally decided to kind of turn the page and take matters into my own hands. Like after Jamal Ely and you, of course, helped me and my wife purchase this place, I kind of dipped my toes in a little bit. And there was so much I didn't understand about what was going on with the whole process. And first of all, you guys were excellent with kind of communicating those details and the information. But Thanks, it definitely, no worries. It allowed me to kind of see it from the consumer perspective shortly before I kind of dove into the professional side. And so I kind of take that with me when I am calling up people looking to see if I can help any prospective clients, buyers or sellers. So it's kind of still fresh in my mind how confusing and overwhelming it all can be.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so obviously I'm about 18 months into real estate full time, and everyone I talk to says, hey, you could have chosen a more interesting time to get into the industry. I'm like, oh, story of my life, right? So, but it's been very interesting, a strong learning environment. I've had some fantastic coaches and mentors who've really helped to direct my intention and my mindset into the appropriate places, and it's been good, man. Challenging but rewarding. So,
Yeah, 100%, man. I think that's, when that's how you forge the strongest iron is of course above the hottest heat, man. So good choice of time to get into the industry, I feel like. Even though obviously we have a lot of obstacles and adversities that have presented themselves in this industry, in this market or whatever for this last year, but it's nothing, insurmountable. It's nothing that, people are still buying houses. People still have to have places to live, and people still need to be able to have that ability to chase a dream, right? Where, our job, of course, is to make that dream a reality. But a lot of times it's so much easier, regardless of what the market's doing or where the market's at, for, the average person that commits to something, right? So,
yeah.
yeah, that's, good start there, dude. That's a good way to kind of establish. So the first thing I wanted to talk about too, and this is something I always thought about, it's a little different for me, obviously, because I've been in and around the industry, obviously, my whole life. I'm second generation in the business. As you know, when you very first met me when I was like 18, 19 years old, I was working for my mom's mortgage company at the time. So this to me is nothing new, right? So, luckily it's allowed me over these however many years to either prepare myself, educate myself, be comfortable with all of the different moving parts of, home ownership, home financing, etc. But for the average, regular, everyday person, it's just a lot, dude. Like, it's not a conversation or conversations that you have in regular day to day life, right? At the very most, a relatively financial savvy person, I think, might be familiar with their 401k that they have at their work. Maybe they have a Roth IRA of their own that they've been saving for retirement. Maybe, um, you know, a lot of times too, I'm helping people that have never even lived on their own. So, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of times people haven't even rented before. So there's a lot of learning and educating that needs to be done for most people, especially first time home buyers, when we start that conversation. Okay. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what we did with you. You had some more knowledge, I feel like, just kind of going in. You've been independent, you've been on your own, but there was a lot of stuff that we had to talk about and understand and put together the right way to make sure that the being able to achieve the goals that you and your soon to be wife at the time wanted to achieve were put in place. So does that sound right? Like how that process kind of was?
Yeah, honestly, it's a lot about, I believe personally, managing expectations, getting
Hmm.
that really dialed in so you know what's going on. Because I feel like a lot of people out there, like, okay, yes, I would love to buy a house,
Right.
but they, for the most part, have very little understanding of all the pieces moving in that situation to make such a thing possible. So their expectations are kind of just dispersed across a very wide field. And like one of the most important things we try to do is kind of corral their ideas into a direction that they're really looking for, asking them the right questions, really honing in on their needs, their wants, and see where that puts them on the whole scheme of things. And once you have their needs and ideas, their goals set in mind, then you can really help them with setting those expectations of the next steps and what has to be done to get there. And
Yeah.
obviously, phrasing it in the best way, like you said earlier, like obstacles, we call them challenges. There's
Yeah.
there's there's nothing really in the way that you can overcome. And from a professional and a consumer point as well, it's just in the beginning, it can seem like a lot. So
Yeah.
that's why we're here to help with any of those points of confusion or points of concern and just smooth them out.
Yeah. I like how you said, actually, too, we're setting the proper expectations from the very beginning and doing more than just managing them. Because I feel like, and I have this conversation every first conversation I have with all of my clients, whether they're going to be immediate buyers or they're going to be buying in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, you want to set the proper expectation. I feel like with people, especially when they don't know what to expect. Okay. I can't manage somebody's expectations if they themselves don't know what to expect or they don't know the
Exactly.
questions. They don't even know the questions to ask. You know what I mean? So let's, from the very beginning, set these expectations for no, this is what we're going to do for you. This is what we need to do to make it happen. These are what we need you to fulfill on your end. And then this is what that timeline could look like as long as all these different, um, you know, barriers of entry are met. Now, not barriers of entry of, again, something that's impossible. It's all going to be super duper easy to understand, super digestible. And not only that, but you actually have an expert that's with you every single step of the way. Because, again, in your exact scenario, right? Even with us being close personal friends and the whole 9 yards, there was never a time, well, which again, it makes it a little bit more nuanced because of our friendship, but there was never a time where like you couldn't ask a question or you
Hmm.
felt dumb or, whatever. Or I think a couple of times I even came over to your house and we kind of walked through some of the actual like loan estimates and talked a little bit about that stuff. Like you need to make sure that, you have open lines of communication regardless of, how many times you bought a house. If it's your first time or 10th time, I feel like having communication super duper important and understanding, the process for sure.
That's across the board
Yeah.
the largest complaint I feel we get in our industry. I'm not sure if you hear a
100%,
lot
dude.
on the mortgage.
Million percent. Yeah.
That communication, and so many times, like, we hear these horror stories from prospects or new clients or things like that, like, "Hey, yeah, it was honestly, I just didn't know what was going on and nobody filled me in." And
Yeah.
that's why, like, from the very beginning, one of my coaches, "Hey, the most important thing you can do in your consultation with these new clients is having an established plan process that they can follow easily, understand the different steps of, so they can not only feel confident and comfortable, but they can also see the progress towards completion. You're like, oh, we're at stage 5.
Right.
After we only have 3 more things to go. Oh, these are the 3 things we need to do before this happens. Oh, and I know what that is because we've already talked about it. So it's not all of a sudden there's a deadline that you didn't know about, or oh, here's another form or procedure or process that you have to do that you were completely unaware of. And I feel like it's things like that that, especially with your buyers, first time home buyers, certainly, this is already in their minds a colossal decision, like probably one of the biggest they'll ever make in their life. And so having any points of uncertainty can really shake them up. So that's why you really have to keep, like you said, those communication lines open.
Yeah.
Key questions or concerns at all, please let me know.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything quicker that will deteriorate a relationship when other than communication, right? If you don't have open lines of communication, it deteriorates the very, very first thing and most important thing I feel like personally, and then, let me know how you feel about this. But to start the home buying process confidently and effectively, there needs to be some sort of level of trust between the person that's helping that family achieve the goal. Okay, so
Certainly.
there should be a lot of trust, hopefully built between them and their realtor, real estate partner, their realtor, and there should be a lot of trust between them and the mortgage partner that they choose, because without trust, okay, and I say trust like not nothing crazy or cheesy, but you have to trust that I am looking out for your best interest, okay? Not
Absolutely.
myself, not my interest. I'm not trying to get myself to only cash a check or a commission at the end of it. It has trust with the people that you're working with is super super duper important, okay? And why lines of communication will usually deteriorate right away, or you won't have open communication with when you're working with the wrong mortgage partner, the wrong bank, the wrong realtor, is because maybe there was something that was identified early that would stop you from being a buyer right away, which then pulls that commission or that income away from that person immediately. And then they no longer want to communicate with you. They no longer have time for you. They no longer want to, which is the exact opposite of what we do, right? So,
For
I
sure.
have a book of business that's like 3 years out from now. You know what I mean? Now, that's not common. Usually it's somewhere between 6 and 12 months, I would say at the most, usually, because within that time frame, you can usually make anybody a homeowner, right? But
Mhm.
you just have people that have different circumstance. So, regardless of how long it takes, build the trust, have open lines of communication, set yourself up for success. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, no, and then that's a solid point because I feel like one of the most misconstrued parts about what we do is, and I'm not gonna throw any shade on anybody else out there, but a lot of these clients, a lot of your prospects, a lot of these people you're trying to help have a difficulty trusting because they look at you as a salesman. And the
yeah,
idea is, what if you're doing your job right, then their best interests are also your best interests. Because
has to be.
if you give them everything they need and you satisfy their demand completely and even go above and beyond, not only do you build that relationship, not only do you foster that trust, but you also create a business model that you can represent, and anybody who knows your business can also represent freely without any qualm. Like, yes, absolutely, he's someone I trust. He's one of my, like, for you example, you are one of my preferred trusted mortgage specialists, my
Yeah.
lender buddy. I mean, because
To be
you have
honest with that
honestly
too.
gone above and
Okay.
beyond so many times and really put in like the legwork and the hours to find every possible advantage that you can give to the clients that we work together with. So
You try, man. Yeah, and that's,
strongest things.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it definitely comes down to the partner, you know what I mean? The partner you choose. I was actually gonna say, to be honest with you, sometimes, a lot of times for people, it's actually more difficult to work with friends, and it becomes even more difficult, the level of friendship that you have, and then, for some people, insurmountably difficult when you to work with family. And it's funny because our book of business, our sphere of influence, our people that we generally, will start with our family, then close
Mhm.
friends, then our friends, then the public, right? So we work the other way around because we're able to build that trust with the people that we work with, right? We're able to have all of these different required, the communication, so on and so forth, where you don't, you know what I mean? Otherwise, you have had been, felt some sort of level of uncomfort or excuse me, discomfort, or had like an apprehension to, man, I don't know, does this guy really know what he's talking about, what he's doing? Do I really want to have him looking at my credit, my bank statements, and like all that? Like, trust me, I hear it all the time, dude. But luckily, for me, because again, you put the work in, you present yourself the right way, you make sure to, uh, you know, be the expert, like, just that you say you are. So you don't run into that obstacle. But I could actually imagine that maybe some of the time you actually don't want to work with a close friend or relative.
Honestly, I've found, like, goes back to expectations with anybody you work with, and
Yeah.
be it a friend, family, or a perfect stranger. Uh, the communicating those expectations, what you're looking for, what you need, and what you expect of them in return. And if that's handled, then I've never had any difficulty working with friends and family. But yeah, you have to. As working with family can be difficult because it's hard to keep a personal and professional sort of separation.
Oh yeah,
But
man.
it's
That's why if you
it's
were
not
not,
impossible. You just
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
you
yeah.
gotta be the professional first and be like, hey, I'm here to help you, and then afterwards we can sit down on the couch and watch the game. But right
Yeah, dude.
now, let me put on my
Hopefully.
realtor hat. Yeah, let me put on my realtor hat because we got stuff to talk about that doesn't come from me, comes from realtor me. So
Yeah. Being able to work with friends and family too, I feel like it really kind of shows, like, you have to be obviously as transparent as possible. And if you weren't providing the best service possible, the best offerings possible, and trying to truly take care of that person, right? Trust me, your friends or family are going to be the first ones to let you know, right? Because
yeah.
that Thanksgiving dinner, that birthday party, whatever, is going to get real uncomfortable. So I think there's a lot to be said with people that are able to actually work in their sphere of influence with, people that are close to them. So sweet. What else? So tell me a little bit more about, okay, so you jumped into the real estate industry. Now, I tell people all of the time that are in the service industry, because I myself spent some time in the service industry, briefly. My wife is still in the service industry, right? So we have, obviously, a lot of you guys from our friend group are in the service industry. We have a lot of experience in the service industry. And I always tell people, like, I feel like that is probably one of the best industries to come from when you are, especially on the real estate side of things, looking to get into real estate. Okay. A lot of that has to do with just an ability, just rapport building, being able to grow a network, being able to provide a level of customer service that people want to show you repeat business. I think there's a lot of good things and tools that you can take from the service industry and apply it to real estate. But did you see a lot of that? Were you able to bring a lot of those tools with you, or did you have to refine some new tools?
A bit of both, 100%.
Nice.
So what you were talking about, the social skills, communication skills, the things that you develop in the industry, the service industry,
Right.
have certainly been invaluable to me in real estate. The ability to strike up a conversation, to be able to get to know somebody. I mean, I was a bartender, like people came up to the
Right.
bar, total strangers, hundreds of people a day, and your job was to chop it up, see what they're about, see where they're from, see what they like, see what they enjoy, and that is almost identical to what you do in real estate as well.
Hopefully.
Though, yeah, but the difference is the environment where the conversation takes place,
Hmm.
and that has caused the requirements to shift a little bit in how you present and how you really engage the people, because you can't call up somebody and talk to them like they're your buddy who just sat down at the bar. Like
Hmm.
there has to be intention. You have to call these people really looking to see if you can offer a service, see if they can even help them out, see what they're looking for, see if they have needs. And then once you've established there can be a purpose for this call beyond, hey, do you want to meet a stranger over the phone today?
Right.
Then you can begin to build that rapport. Then you ask them, yeah, where you come? How long you been in Vegas? Where do you work? That's awesome. And you grow in just the same sort of circumstance. The different tool set I would say is that your method of acquiring business was one of the biggest challenges that I really struggled with in the very beginning.
Okay.
In the bar industry, people come to you for business.
Right.
You have a need and they come to your place and you provide it. In real estate, and I imagine in mortgage lending as well, if you're not word of mouth, then you're actually out there almost like a hunter. You're looking for people who need
Absolutely, dude.
things. You're looking for the tracks and like, oh yeah, this person said that they were looking for some help, but they didn't know anybody. Oh yeah, well give me their contact information. I'll reach out and see if there's anything that I can do for them. But the acquiring business has definitely been, I would say, the largest change in my toolkit that I've
Right.
acquired since I began.
Yeah, I think being intentional too, like you said, is an absolute must requirement in this industry, because if you're going out day to day, willy nilly, with literally no plan for your day, but even more importantly, like, you can even drill down further to where you don't have a plan for the conversation that you're going to have with somebody. Meaning, with me as an example, right? Almost every first conversation that I have with people, for the most part, is structured in a very specific way. Okay. Regardless of what is inside of the conversation, obviously, is going to be very different person to person, but the actual structure of the conversation is going to be very intentional, right? You're trying to, again, set the proper expectations. You're trying to gather the correct amount of information. You're trying to put together something very intentionally, right? So I think, yeah, in this industry, dude, you cannot be, you have to be very intentional with your every process that you do, whether that's your day planning, whether that's with your, scheduling with clients, conversations with clients, how you operate your business, what have you. Super duper important, because people eventually, and I think with the real estate industry, it takes time, a lot, for you to, one, figure this stuff out, two, for you to build a book of business, and three, for you to gain enough credibility in the market that you're in. Because again, especially with real estate, right, you got to remember, all real estate's local, right? So you're doing real estate local in the community that you live. So if you have never done real estate in the community before, it's going to take a little time for you to
Absolutely.
start building some of that reputation in the community. But, you know, for sure, the community will sniff out those that are there to serve them and serve them the right way. So, after a bit of time, of course, is when you start seeing things start to snowball, your book of business start to grow, and you go from there. So, I would imagine for you, obviously, you're actually already starting to see that happen, right? As you come out of your first year into your second year, and you're starting to see more of these conversations happening
Yeah,
because people are starting to realize that you're putting the work in, you're somebody to be looked at as a professional.
absolutely. That's honestly, I was told that real estate it's a career game. It's not something you get into for a year or two or three. It's something that if
Well,
you're
some do.
looking, some
Some
do.
definitely, some definitely
Well,
do. So
if
again, make
you're
sure you partner with the right people. But
if you're looking to be successful in real estate, however, it's everyone I know who's really made it and who are the ones that you look up to in your brokerage. Your veteran agents, the people who've been in the game. Talk about 10 to 15 plus years. A lot of these people.
oh yeah,
I'm like, yeah, it's taken me this long to really establish my process and get it down. And so, yeah, definitely growth over time, but I'm in it for the long haul. And so that's one step in front of the other, one client after next, one conversation makes another conversation. So,
that's it, man. You're growing. You're leveling up, as we would say in the gaming world,
yes,
each and
sir.
every single day. I feel like that's just the thing that you have to make sure. Again, be intentional with every day. You're getting better. So whether that means you're getting better, in one aspect or multiple aspects, but you're always getting better, right? And you'll just realize over time, obviously, your knowledge base will grow, that reputation will grow, so on and so forth. So yeah, you got to put the work in. But
Yes, sir.
and another thing too with having time in the industry too, we actually just literally right before I hopped on this live with you, I was actually making a post to let everyone know that, kind of with where rates are right now and how today Jerome Powell announced, hey, we're not raising rates. So now the market immediately started shifting and making a move down, rates coming
Yep.
down, boom, boom, boom. One of our lending partners released some very specific pricing for FHA streamlines and VA IRRRLs, which are basically what we would call a rate and term refinance. Okay. I actually believe we may have done one for you on your original mortgage before we refinance it to remove the PMI. Can't remember exactly, but I think we did. But this particular product, you know what I mean, is nuanced. Okay. So it's actually extremely easy. It's a lot easier to do than a traditional refinance for both FHA and VA, but there's some nuance to it, right? You have to know what parameters and guidelines to follow. You have to know what requirements there are or aren't, right? One pro tip, obviously, in the mortgage business too. It's not always about what you do, but some of the time it's about what you don't do as well. Because sometimes in the mortgage industry, you're doing too much. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't have to provide this, this piece, that, so on and so forth. So that's another important tool of who you partner with mattering to make sure that they know everything. Okay. So you want to know exactly what you need at every step of the corner. But why I brought that up is because as you have more experience in the industry, you go through these different programs and rate environments and purchase cycles and so on and so forth. The FHA and VA streamline hasn't been a thing for the last couple years because we've had in 2021 we had such historically low interest rates that everyone refinanced down to a 2 or 3% interest rate on mostly conventional loans, right? Then we had rates super duper spike up this last year or whatever, and there was no opportunity to refinance. And now we're back in a market where we were back in like 2018, 19, where it's a little bit calmer, a little easier, and we see interest rates start organically and naturally coming down, which opens up the benefit of some of these programs, right? Why I say that is because you actually have loan officers or lenders that weren't even in the business 2 years ago, right? They weren't even here a year or whatever ago. So they've never done an FHA or VA streamline, right? So they don't even know how to process them. So kind of like on your end, like if somebody had never done a HUD REO, or if somebody never did a manufactured unit, right? Like we did a manufactured unit just earlier this year. So you actually were able to experience it earlier in your career. And just like, even that alone, there was some nuance to, right?
Oh yeah, there definitely some interesting pieces to that puzzle. But hey, we
Yeah.
solved it. So
Nothing we couldn't overcome, nothing we
nope,
weren't expecting. But, there's just, parts of the puzzle you have to put together. That's what our job is, right? We're pieces,
absolutely.
we
Problem
bring the
solvers.
people together and we problem solve. Exactly right. So, cool. What else, man? So we don't necessarily only have to talk about work, but maybe 10 minutes or so. Is there anything else that, like, what do you think the next couple years looks like for you in the industry, out of curiosity?
Good question. So honestly, uh, towards the end of this year, I really started seeing a lot more, as we spoke about, like intention, like reasoning, like honestly progress in so many different parts of my business, that it kind of inspired me to see 2024. And mainly because if I'm able to kind of make these gains
Hmm.
in such a challenging environment, then I am extraordinarily optimistic about the future, the next couple of years, as we get those buyers back in who
Love
felt like
it.
they'd been sort of priced out of their possibilities. Like
Yep.
that was I talked to hundreds of people a week, and every
Yep.
single person I talk to has been like, "Man, I just don't know if I can. It's just it doesn't make sense to me right now." And obviously, depending on their particular circumstances, the conversation might go out different ways, because there might be some information I can give that might change the way they're looking at things.
Yeah.
But as we move out of this rate heavy environment into 24, I think that a lot of these buyers are going to see, wait, this isn't as bad. And not only that, but also it's time distance from, like you said, 21, where you had these historically low rates that honestly, I mean, and you're the mortgage specialist, but honestly, we'll probably never see again.
No, we shouldn't. I mean, that would be, to be honest with you, the only reason that we did see them is because we had realistically a crisis in the country where we had 10-year bond levels literally at zero, meaning that you could in theory borrow free money from the banks. And I'm talking more of a higher corporate level, right?
Yeah, of
And from
course.
that corporate level, then you get to the residential mortgage market, right? And when you have 0% bond yield, right, that means that the money's got to go somewhere. So that money all went to mortgage loans, which is why you had a sustainable for a long period of time there 2% or 3% interest rates. So
Yep. And I think that's, as we move forward, I think the distance from that sort of relatively unique environment
yeah,
will make these new rates, your sixes, your fives, possibly your fours, become that new normal standard that people are looking to really purchase when they get their note, when they get their loan, when they purchase their home. And as we get closer to 24, 25, and further away from 21, I honestly just expect a lot of people to really just kind of change their mindset. Be like, yes, I still want to buy, I still want a home, and no, I don't want to wait 5 to 10 years to see what might happen. Because a lot of people out there have needs like growing families, getting married, moving to a different part of town, different job.
yeah,
And the idea that timing the market, waiting for that best deal, will slowly begin to become a more manageable option. Personally, that's
yeah,
what I think.
yeah. In my conversation I had with Maria the other day on my live, we talked a lot about like life circumstances and how that heavily influences, I don't want to say dictates, but it'll heavily influence the decision making process with, okay, am I at a position in my life where I'm not even necessarily talking about financially, but I'm talking about like, am I in a position that I want to be in one place for a longer than 1 year or 2 year time, right? Because I had talked yesterday about on our live about how even from somebody that's been in and around the mortgage and real estate industry for my entire life. I had rented three or four apartments, 2 houses, a condo. You know what I mean? And they're talking about almost 15 years of what would have been money set aside for myself and my future with my wife. That was otherwise spent on rent. And that's fine, right? You can't obviously go back. You can't change that. It is what it is. But to be honest with you, I just wasn't in my life ready anyways, right? Given I had somebody maybe talking to me a different way, or maybe I was a little bit more mature and I was able to see further out than a year or 2 years, right? That could have changed, but it didn't. So I more than anybody, I feel like understand this because I've been there, done that, and very, very guilty of that. And I'm also the mortgage guy, literally the mortgage lender. So I don't think there's many people in the world that understands that as much as I do. Then you mix up, making sure your credit's right, making sure you have enough down payment, making sure, dude, I've done it all. So yeah, in the exact market right now where rates had gone up to a certain level, then that certain level means that it's knocked out this sector of people from just being able to afford a house. Okay. Granted, you can get very creative. We have non-occupant co-borrowers, whatever we need to do. But
there are
let's just say,
options.
yeah,
There are
exactly.
options.
But I have data that says for every 1% decrease in rate that comes to the market, we should see another introduction of maybe 4 to 5 million home buyers across the country, where right now, I just want to say, if I remember correctly, the last time I saw the NAR stats for last month, maybe there was like 1.5 million total home sales this year, if I remember. Does that sound right?
I believe. Let me double check. I was actually looking at that earlier.
Yeah, so that would mean if that number is in fact correct. So that would mean that that's a 1.5 should be a mix of both listings and purchases. Okay, first of all. Second of all, that number that I just gave you would be an introduction of just buyers into the market. So you're talking about tripling the market with potential, people that are potentially looking to purchase a home in a market that doesn't even necessarily have the inventory to serve them. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
we might be able to afford houses a bit better here shortly, but I'm not exactly sure as far as getting into a house what that's going to look like, because there's going to be a whole lot of people doing the same thing.
true, and that's that's honestly one of the things that I do talk about with all of the people who can buy right now, who are able to, and it makes financial sense for them to do so. But the ones that are choosing not to, I say, hey, honestly, there is a price
That,
for waiting, and
yeah, unfortunately, dude.
as things go forward, you're going to come into a circumstance where, sure, you might have a better rate in the future, but not necessarily a lower purchase price or
Right.
more competition. And especially with our low inventory through the holidays, we historically see a lot of buyers sort of leave the pool. They're like, you know what, I'm I'm not going to deal with this during the holidays. But the buyers who do remain in are highly motivated and highly qualified, and they're getting what they want.
Right.
There's homes that go up and go down every day, and it's an interesting time. It's kind of counterintuitive in a way,
Right.
but yes, unfortunately for many people, the least convenient time to make a decision like this is also the best time to do it.
Right. Absolutely. And I mean, I don't know how comfortable you are going into detail more specifically in your situation once you got into your house, but I mean, I tell everyone when I'm having this conversation with them just to help them understand home ownership and then what having a mortgage even means, what that looks like, how I explain to everyone that your mortgage, your house, the asset that's available to you is kind of like a living organism, sort of, where yes, when you buy your house or whatever the case may be, you should almost always have a fixed rate mortgage, right? There's very, very few people in the world that should ever consider doing an adjustable rate mortgage for obvious reasons, unless you're the absolute most savvy, um, you know, investor ever, whatever, it doesn't matter. But
If you're
that
very
living,
capable and very hands-on and very informed,
I mean, but why would you want to
then
do that? Yeah,
yeah, do whatever you want to do. But I do
right.
agree that for most people, having that fixed rate that's a blessing.
Yep. And that fixed rate again works with you. Okay. So in your exact case, I won't go super deep into detail with fixed numbers or whatever. But if you remember, we purchased your house at a certain interest rate. I want to say that it was somewhere in the low fives. This was in 2018, which again was like the absolute best, getting best possible rate, lowest closing, the whole 9 yards, right? Which was great. And then, in granted, obviously, we had what would have been like a black swan type of event, but opportunity reared its head. And within that first couple years of you being into that house, you were able to go from a 5 something% interest rate to literally like a 3% interest rate because of how the market allowed it to happen. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, that didn't have to happen necessarily, but we had this conversation when you bought your house about how this is something that we're always, again, it's you are able to always improve, okay, in the mortgage space, right? Because a couple things, again, you're making your mortgage payment as if you would make any rent payment, right? So you're immediately affecting the principal balance on your loan. That's assuming you don't put any extra money towards the principal, which you can always do. So as you're paying the principal balance down in a Las Vegas, Henderson, here in Nevada, pretty much everywhere across the country too, we see annual appreciation at some relatively regular 3%, 4%, 5%. I think in 2021 and 22 is like 18% a year, like
Yeah.
insane, dude. But
I
these
think we're looking at about 5.5 here in the valley on average.
Oh, that'd be a pretty nice normal average, right? So as these
Yeah.
different levers are moving, okay, your balance is going down, your property value is going up, and market interest rates may allow you to refinance, that's when you attack, right? So
Yeah.
it's not, and you would obviously not be able to do that if you were not the owner of the home. So rather than, just kind of letting life take you by the wayside, paying rent and just, going throughout life, I'm I'm on this campaign, dude. We're going to continue educating and making sure that people understand not just buying a house and all of that fun stuff, but all of the different benefits and opportunities that present themselves once you're a homeowner. Okay.
Absolutely. And it goes back into kind of what we touched on a little bit earlier. So yeah, let's say we are right now sitting at low sevens, right? You buy a home. I believe the average list price here in, yeah, the good Las Vegas, 475. Let's say you
Right.
get a 475 at 7%, and you're paying that payment. 2 years down the road, a year down the road, well, let's just call it two just to be safe. I mean, you're the mortgage guy, and like you'll obviously recommend the appropriate time. But two
You
years
run
down
with
the
it.
road, you might be looking at low fives, medium fives, or sorry, high fives, medium fives. Perfect time to refinance, bring that rate back down. Whereas that home value that you now purchased for 475 is probably now closer to 520, 540.
I
And
mean,
now
yeah.
that makes an entirely different buying scenario. If you can, and that's what I tell people all the time. Like, if it makes sense, if you can financially afford to make the payments without obviously being house rich and cash poor, do it, because when the future comes, you'll be able to lower that rate. The rates will come down. And with a fixed rate, once they do, you refinance into that and you don't have to worry about anything else until the rates maybe go down lower someday. And if they do, you can, like you said, attack. But
Yep.
locking in with the purchase price you have now, it's just a matter of time. But
Right. It's it's something that to be honest with you, I've had conversations, dude, with many homeowners that don't understand what a mortgage refinance is. Okay. To me, that is actually mind blowing. Like, that's actually part of the buying process. That would be like buying a car and not knowing how to drive a stick shift. You know what I mean?
well,
Like, you can
I don't
drive it maybe, but it's only going to go in first gear or second gear. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I don't think a lot of people understand, rather the function
yes,
of
100%.
the value of a home. It gets and people are like, "Oh yeah, my home is worth this much," and you're right, it is worth this much. But you can't take one of the boards off the wall in your backyard and take it into the bank and be like, "Hey, can you give me one piece of my house's worth of money for this?"
Dude, that's
I mean,
hilarious.
the only way you can really translate the value of your home into actual financial freedom is through utilizing a refinancing process. Like, oh yes, here, my home has collateral. Thank you. Let's go back on this
Yeah.
and take some money. Here's the
That's
equity I have.
literally that's literally your equity tool, right? Like, you have
Yes.
to be able to have the hammer to knock the nail into the wood, but
Yeah.
if you don't
I mean, or you can sell your house, I guess. So there's only a couple of ways you can ever make your house work for you. And the refinance, man, like that's I follow a lot of investors, and it's honestly one of your most powerful tools, being able to leverage debt forward into acquisition of things that are going to improve in the long run. Like this is how you do it.
I mean, it's not something that you and I made up. It's something that has existed for a very, very long time, and the richest people in the country, of course,
Yeah,
deploy on a very daily basis. But again, I am
very true.
yeah, I'm careful when I have these conversations with people because here's another thing that I have conversations with a lot, okay? In my personal opinion, I find it hard to digest the idea of putting too much money down on a property unless I just have vast sums of money that I don't care about. Okay. And what exactly do I mean with that? This could be in the conversation of putting 20% down rather than 10, or this can be the cash buyer versus the person financing. I feel like, and obviously every situation and every person is completely different, but do you want again, hopefully it's not all of your money, but at least the sum of your money tied up into a property that you cannot just access tomorrow, right? You again, if you had $300,000 to your name and you were going to buy a house in cash for 285, that would mean that you're leaving yourself with very, very little breathing room, right? When you could otherwise take advantage of some of the other options and opportunities available to you, given the proper communication, education, understanding, right? Because there's, and I can go way, way deeper than that, but I don't even want to because it's going to get too complicated. But I have these conversations with people sometimes, and they're like, "You're the mortgage lender that doesn't want me to put more money down to," you know what I mean? And they're like, usually it's the exact opposite, where they're like, "You have to put 20% down or 30% down," right? Well, no, let me show you the different tools that are available to you, what that means, understand them, and what you're trying to do, or what I'm always trying to do, is set my client up in the best situation possible. Life situation, financial situation, future situation, right? There's so many different variables to that come into play. So, does
It
that
goes
make
back to what we
sense? Like, do you see?
Yeah. No, we're back to what we were talking about earlier, how ideally, if you're doing your job the way you should be doing your job, your client's best interests are your best interests.
Gotta be, man.
So like
Has to be.
I'm literally doing this. I am advising you in this way because based on what I understand of your needs, this is the one of the ways that is going to fulfill your needs with the best possible outcomes.
100%, man. That's the, understanding your client and their needs should be paramount and the most important part of that first conversation that you have with somebody and ongoing conversations. But most people don't take the time to ask the questions that need to be asked, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
you can't have the answer to the math problem unless you know the equation. So,
100%. That was the single greatest piece of advice anyone ever gave me in real estate. It was like, honestly, your whole job, your career is built around the ability to ask great questions. You
love it.
have to find the meaning. You have to find a meaning behind why people are doing things. Like ask, and it's all one question away. And you just
Yep.
have to ask it,
Yep.
dive in. Like, oh yeah, that's fantastic. That's interesting. Tell me more. Tell me
Yep.
more about this. Great.
Absolutely.
Now tell me even more about it. Until you can no longer talk about this thing, I haven't learned enough about it from your perspective.
Yeah.
So
100%. And a lot of times too, and this is a little bit more salesy than at least I like to get into because in my exact role is on the mortgage side, the finance side, I don't believe that there is a really I don't think there's a big need for a sales approach to it, right? I very much position myself more as the educator, more as the partner, more as the tool to help you achieve goals, right? But in the sales world, I feel like if somebody is telling you no one time, um, there may be more. Okay.
Mhm.
The sixth time when somebody tells me no, I'm not ready, or no, it's not part of my life yet, or no, I'm not, interested, then I'll maybe we'll go with, oh yeah, yeah, okay, maybe. But
Got it.
give it one or two, three, understand the whys, ask the right questions, dig a little bit deeper, guys. Trust me.
Yep.
People want to be helped, dude. Like, think about it.
We're out there.
Last time you were somewhere that provided a service, did you want somebody to help you? Or did you want to check yourself out at the self checkout? Like,
It's the reflex no. It's honestly like, I mean, you can have bags in your hands and like walking in, and like your buddy can be at the door and be like, "Hey, want me to take one of those from you?" And you can be like, "Nah, I got it." Even though you probably would benefit from having one of those bags taken from you, or like the person in a store, or like, "Can I help you find something?" "No, I got it." I mean, you
yeah,
probably would benefit from having somebody just take you to where you were looking to go rather than spend 20 minutes shopping through the aisles for it. But
yes,
it's
sir.
it comes back to almost like a confirmation bias. It's a lot of people have their own perspective on what's going on and reflexively sort of sidestep, become defensive on anything that might encroach on what they believe. And so battling through that, like you said, that initial no, that reflex no, is just something you have to do.
Just
It's like,
expect it. A lot of times too, I just assume, like, you know what I mean? Like, go with, and actually assume is a terrible word to use because we all know what that means, but I will almost want to talk about the objections first when I'm talking to somebody, right? Like, I really, really want to dig in with, what do you already know? What questions do you already have? And what, again, are the goals that you're looking to accomplish? And obviously, if we're able to understand that from the very beginning, it makes everything so much easier. But a lot of times people are apprehensive. Like, they don't really, if you haven't built that level of trust with them yet, or you're not going into the relationship or the conversation with some sort of built-in trust already, they might be apprehensive to tell you some of this stuff. So you really have to pull it out of them a lot of times,
yep,
or spend more time building rapport and building trust. You know what I mean? So,
true. And that's, I mean, that's the name of the game, man. It's
dude,
you have to get in there, and that's where, like, once again, that intention, that motivation comes from. There are people out there who do need help buying and selling their homes. They need
I
help. They
haven't
don't
met
know.
anyone that doesn't. Have you?
Yeah. No, like, I mean, it's something that they do need, and so you just have to go into every single circumstance like, "Hey, are you one of the people that I can help today?"
Yep.
And if not, then hey, let me shake your hand. Maybe, hey, if you're ever looking for something in the future, here's my card. I'm more than happy to help. But
Yeah,
that,
and please let the people around you know that when they need the help, or if they're looking for the help, that you know, just happen to run into an expert in the community that's willing to help and have a conversation. So
yeah,
that's
that's the name of the
dude.
game.
Yeah, man. Okay, not to put you on blast, dude, but I cannot believe that you were actually a little apprehensive to have this conversation on the live, and you didn't know how it was gonna go, and you didn't
Yeah.
know, dude.
I mean,
Good job, dude.
I've never really messed with any live. I haven't
Bro, I
honestly
told
been
you.
very social media savvy.
I got
Uh,
you, dude.
but yeah, so I appreciate the opportunity to kind of get out there, talk about some interesting topics, obviously introduce
Yeah.
myself, and yeah, it was thanks for having me on the show, Mario.
Oh, dude, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to have you. I think you did a phenomenal job. And again, I just think it's super important for people to know who they're working with in the community, right? Again, Keno's a real dude that lives here, born and raised, just like me, in the community, right? We go to the same restaurants you guys do, gyms you guys do, so on and so forth. We're truly here to serve the community. So the more that we can do stuff like this, I feel like people can actually see us. We're, accessible. It's a
Exposure,
little
man.
bit 100%. Yeah, different than having to, I mean, I do. I have to answer my phone all of the time, regardless of what the number shows, because it could be obviously a client or a partner or whatever. But how many people on a regular day to day basis is just answering their phone, or just opening a door to somebody. Like nobody, dude. Like, you know what I mean?
You'd be
So
surprised.
no, yeah, you're right. I know that they still do, but
Like, yeah, no, I'm boots on the ground out there. I'd still door knock, and it's
yeah,
obvious.
buddy.
Yeah, it's not like you get somebody every door, but yeah, you'd be surprised at how many people still like look through their door and like or see it on the Ring camera, and they're like, "This guy looks like he's selling
Guy looks
something."
cool. Yeah, yeah. There you go.
Let's talk. Let's see what it is. So it's always
Nice, dude.
good.
All right. So where, for those of, for the people that watch this that want to reach out to you or at least just pick your brain and be able to ask some questions and check your vibe out. How would they best get a hold of you? I know that you're working on the social media thing, but email, phone, website, what's your modality of choice?
Honestly, I'm a little old school. I prefer email and phone. Text, call, email, those work fantastic, and I can always get back to you within moments, unless I'm obviously
Sweet.
in a consultation or appointment of some kind. But yeah, those
Dude,
definitely work out best for me.
thought you were gonna say snail mail, dude.
Snakes, not that old school.
Nice.
Not that old school.
Well, I appreciate it, good sir. I think my voice just cracked. That was super weird.
Welcome back to high school, my guy.
Hey, bang, bang.
Hey.
All right, perfect. Well, congrats on your first full year in the industry, man. I know it's been a wild ride with many, many more wild rides to come. But keep being a crusher. Keep being, somebody that, again, our community can look to for, advice and education, man. So keep up the good work.
All day, brother. Hey, thanks for the call, man. I
All
appreciate
right,
it.
guys, take it easy. Happy holidays. Mario with the Escobedo team, your local mortgage experts. Let our family help yours.
Happy holidays.